3 weeks left in recruiting. We tried to finish up the 14 class. When we got that done, we started right then on the 15 and 16 class, and for the last 3 days we've started working on football.
So have you been able to take a breath at all?
No, and you know, no staff at this time of year is taking a breath. Everybody's working, getting ready for spring ball.
How much of an issue is just, I mean, implementation? These guys have got a different system. I understand it's not like you've been able to go over a playbook with them for the past few weeks during this interim. So, I mean, how much of an issue is just implementation and learning at this point?
Well, the big thing is we're trying to do for the spring, our number one goal is to figure out who's the right guys to be coaching. You know, so as far as scheme this spring, we're going to work on fundamentals. We're going to see who's going to practice hard every day and who can carry out some details, and then we'll figure out that and who's the best guys to be coaching this fall.
So more about personnel than scheme.
Right.
How much does spring ball tell you, especially when you're dealing with all new players, how much does it tell you what you need to know going forward in terms of the personnel that you want to use, starters, second team, so forth and so on?
Well, the first thing is you find out who likes to compete, and that's what we're trying to figure out, who's the guys that want to compete every play, every day. It tells you a little bit about who they are. We've seen some of it in the off-season program in mat drills, but you know, there's guys who, you know, they practice well in shorts. There's guys who practice well in pads, and the big thing is we're trying to figure out who practices well in pads.
You were the new guy in Tallahassee last year. Did you notice players maybe having an edge to them that they might not have had if they were playing for an incumbent coordinator when you came in?
Well, you know, the big thing is I followed Coach Stoops, and you know, his philosophy and Coach Fisher, the way they had, you know, there was nothing there that needed to be fixed. They had been playing really good defense for quite some time. You know, we changed kind of the philosophy and you know, basically the scheme, but yes, the players had an edge. They liked to compete, and they were used to winning.
Just for the short time you've been around these guys, though, I mean, especially with the way it went for that unit last year, do you find them kind of chomping at the bit even more to learn from you and Coach Rocker and some of the other guys?
Well, I think all the guys are eager. They've had a good off season. You know, now it's the next step. We go out there and start practicing and see, you know, what kind of football players they are.
Coach Rick said you remember J.J. Green from the recruiting days and you wanted him back. What is it about him that you see as a cornerback that you wanted to pull him over to the defensive side?
Well, the big thing is just lack of numbers. You know, you can never have too many corners. Obviously, I was a little bit familiar with J.J., and it's pretty crowded back there at the running back spot. And he wants an opportunity to play, and this gives him a chance.
How much was just to the average of this defense you think looked different from what people saw last year under Coach Grant?
You know, I wasn't here last year, so I'm probably not the right person to be asking that question.
But I mean, you see a major from what you do and what they've done here in the past, or I don't know how much you looked at film on what they did last year and the past couple of years.
No, well, I think if you looked at you know, really what Georgia's done in the past, what Alabama's done in the past, what we did at Florida State last year, it's very similar. There's a lot of similarities, and you know, Coach Grantham coached with Coach Saban, and we're all kind of from the same tree. So, from a schematic standpoint, there's going to be some similarities, which is a good thing.
Coach, I know you'll know more obviously once you get out on the field, but in meeting the guys, you know, kind of jump out at you a little bit that maybe they can't wait to see this one on the field, for example?
Not really. I mean, we're kind of taking it all in stride, and you know, we'll figure that out when we get out there.
I know you mentioned it's kind of going to be a taking inventory and just, you know, seeing what you have, but I mean, is it going to be a situation where as the spring goes on, kind of, I guess, judging how much you can throw at them in terms of how much they're going to need to know for the fall?
Well, the big thing is we're not concerned as much about how much somebody can learn right now. We want to see who can, you know, get off blockers, who can tackle in space, and then who can do that, we'll do as much as they can do in the fall.
Are your guys at the right body types you're looking for in your system, or what are you doing in the off-season conditioning to kind of address that?
Well, we're trying to get some of our bigger guys down. Personally, we feel like everybody's a little bit heavy. We'd like to be a little bit faster. And that's just, I guess, our preference, but trying to slim up just a little, including the coaching staff.
Sure, the reporters could use a little bit of that. Do you You talked about the edge that you got to Florida State. This obviously defense had some problems last year, and the team, had maybe didn't a year that was what they expected. How's that mindset going in with a bunch of guys that maybe are looking to redemption or to prove something after last year?
Well, the big thing is that this team, which a lot of them wasn't here, but I don't know much about last year, but I do know this about 2 years ago. The defense here 2 years ago, because I was at Alabama, was pretty darn good. I mean, we played them in the SEC championship game, and they were one play away from beating us. But there was a lot of good players on that team. There was a lot of leadership guys on that team that obviously are all playing in the NFL. So there was a lot of new faces last year, and when you have a team like it was here in 2012, there's going to be some growing pains in next year, and there were some.
You mentioned the competition and your experience. Have you come across many instances where a player understands going into spring ball that if he competes, he's in a position where he can open some eyes and put himself in that much of a better position come fall?
Well, every drill we're doing this spring is going to be two-spotted, so everybody's going to get the same amount of reps, so everybody gets the same opportunity. I think that might be a little different than what was done here in the past, but everybody's going to get the same opportunity.
Jeremy, how much can you tell in mat drills and what you've seen so far from these guys about, persevering, overcoming? I mean, where's your sense of these guys so far before you see them on the field?
Well, it's hard to tell because you don't play it on the mats, So I think when we get out there on the grass and after we get 15 practice under us, I could probably give you a little better answer than right now.
You said before that at Florida State that a lot of guys, when you look back at it, were not playing the same position in the spring that they wound up playing in the fall. Could you see it being a little bit that way here? A lot of mixing and matching.
Sure, it was. I think we counted. It was probably in November. We were looking there too deep, and there was only like 7 or 8 guys who actually participated at the same position in the fall as they did in the spring. And some that had to do with the injuries, which there's some here too. There's some injuries guys that won't participate in spring. And yes, we got to figure out where everybody kind of fits.
How much have you looked at that leading up to spring practice? Guys that may start out at a different spot than they were to finish the season.
No, the big thing right now is we're going to give everybody a chance to play where they want to play. Because if they're happy where they're at, then they're going to give you a little better effort, a little better attitude. So we're going to give everybody the opportunity to play what they want to play.
Has anyone told you that they, I'd like to try this spot instead?
There's a couple of guys who I think are going to move from outside linebacker in the past to more of a defensive end type role.
Who's that?
Deloach.